We got puppy dog features. We got puppy dog features. Good girl. Hi guys. So 3 years old, and I spent over $4 grand more than what its original MSRP was. To be fair, like I said, I had those additional modifications on it that I was able to sell separately, but holistically speaking, that is kind of crazy to say out loud. Like people like this, people buy this, that's crazy to me. It's like a Tonka truck. Same goes for the inside. Like what is going on with this big hunk of plastic? Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So behind me is my 2021 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro. I have owned it now for over 6 months, and if you frequent my channel at all, you know that that might just be a world record for me. Hold on, we got a bugaboo feature. Hey buddy, say hi. So that just might be a world record owning this for over 6 months. So in today's video, I just want to give a recap. You know, what has my ownership experience been like? What is it that I love most about this previous generation Toyota Tundra? What are my couple dislikes? I'll recap the modifications that I've done to it, my additions that I've made, and I'll also talk through the, I guess, deductions that I've made to it, because I removed a few things, if you recall, back when I actually picked this up originally. So we'll talk through that. We'll talk through how much money I've lost on it at this point after having put 7,000 miles on it, just teetering over 10,000 now. Then we'll wrap up this video with what would I consider trading this for, if anything. So stick with me. So before I talk about the modifications that I did to my Tundra, I just want to real quickly recap the things I love most about this generation Tundra. So at large, I just love how simplistic it is. I've talked about it plenty, so I'm not going to beat it to death in this video, but I love the core simplicity of this Tundra. When you get inside here, I'll remind you, it is just no additional bells, whistles, and frills. It is pretty bare bones, and I have grown to really appreciate this about this Tundra in particular. After having owned a 2023 Tundra TRD Pro, I appreciate this more. This just feels right. It's a very raw, visceral feeling truck, and it just feels very truck-like. You know, so many new trucks have just gotten so far away. They've distanced themselves so far away from what a real truck should be, right? And I think this is really the last prime example. This and the Nissan Titan, I feel kind of neck and neck when it comes to just the overall core simplicity of just a truck, right? It's just a utility vehicle. A ton of space out back. I've always loved this about it. Excuse the mess. I didn't clean it up at all before this video here, but I love just how big it is back here. This is enormous. And I have 4 young kiddos at home. So having a ton of space out back is ideal, and it really is perfect. And well, I got the goldfish to prove it back here. How about that? So unfortunately, you cannot fit 4 people, of course, back here, which is why we do need a quote-unquote family hauler in our household with a 3rd row. But overall, the simplicity, I love the fact that it does have the naturally aspirated 5.7 liter V8 underneath the hood. No fake sounds coming through the speaker system for the Tundra here. You just have this very raw, although thirsty, but a very raw power delivery. And the way the gearing is set up within the Tundra here in particular, it's just, I love the power delivery. It's very, you know, low RPM. You feel that torque come on. It's not a lot, 381 horsepower and 401 foot-pounds of torque coming out of this 5.7 liter V8. Not a lot to write home to mom about. The new generation Tundra TRD Pro in particular, with the iForce Max, has a lot more to work with, right? A lot more, and you feel it. But it feels a little synthetic by comparison. This, it's a lot of drama to it, and that really adds to the appeal of the driving experience, in my opinion. Forgive me, it's pretty dirty overall. So really, just that overall simplistic feel in and out. You know, there's not a ton of technology in here. It does have the Toyota Safety Sense with the radar, adaptive cruise control up front. Everything you need and nothing more, and I really appreciate that. You know, I know that I can pop the hood and actually work on this if I needed to at some point, right? And actually have that peace of mind that, hey, I can figure out a problem if something goes wrong with this. Whereas with the new Tundra TRD Pros, with the twin turbo V6 that we find in the new generation Tundra and the hybridized platform with the iForce Max, you don't have that same level of peace of mind, unfortunately. So that up front, in its most, I guess, quickest summary, those are the things I love about this platform here, and those are the things I've always really appreciated about it. You know, so simplicity, reliability, unmatched reliability with this. You know, it can run 250,000, 500,000 miles if you just maintain it appropriately. And I love that. Not too many vehicles you can do that with today. And and the affordability too. Uh-oh. We got some neighbor kids. We got some drive-bys. Nice haircut, Dunk. Nice haircut, dude. And the affordability, right? Being able to pay $54,000 for this back in 2021 was a pretty big deal. Whereas fast forward 1 year later with the new generation Tundra, it cost $71,000 plus. And now in 2024, $77,000 and some change. So prices have gotten out of hand. This is when it was still affordable, reliable, and simplistic, and I appreciate that. And personally, I really appreciate the very simple and modest body lines of the exterior of the Tundra here. You know, very, very simple, no huge fender flares like we would find on a Ford F-150 Raptor. Although I love Raptors, this here is just more subtle, more sleek, and I appreciate this. Just more mature, for lack of better terms, right? And I think that allows it to age well. So not a whole lot of curvature to the fender flares out back. You just kind of have a pretty subtle swooping line here. And I think that looks pretty sleek. Not to mention, we can't talk about the things I like of the Tundra here without mentioning that TRD catback exhaust combined with that V8 here. So let me remind you of how wonderful that sounds. And it is important to note that it is a dual catback exhaust. So you got it out both sides, so you really just kind of heard one side of it, but it really does have such a wonderful rumble as you're driving down the street. Love it. We got puppy dog features. We got puppy dog features. Good girl. Zeke, come here, bud. Come here. Come here. Good boy. Hi, guys. Hi. And when it comes to dislikes, I honestly do not have many at this point. I've owned this a few times, and every time I sell it, I always miss it, and I just want to get it back again. So this time, truly, I have no desire to sell it. I have zero desire to sell this thing. We'll see how long that lasts, but I'm 6 months in, and that's already a record for me. So absolutely love it. No desire to sell it whatsoever. But of course, you can always complain about the fuel economy, right? People always complain about that. Personally, it does not bother me much. I mean, 14 miles to the gallon on a good day. I did put larger 295, 295/70, 18 Nitto Ridge grapplers on it, so that's a part of the equation. But I tell you what, guys, I would much rather spend my time at the pump compared to the shop fixing things that are wrong with it. Whereas you do run that risk with the new generation Tundra, right? You buy that, you might have some main crankshaft bearing issues. There might have something go wrong with the tech, whereas you're less likely to experience some drastic issues with the previous generation here. I'm not saying it isn't possible, of course it is, but less likely for sure. And another dislike I have is a very small one, but it is worth mentioning. I'm sure I'm in the minority for this, but personally I don't really care to have these integrated safes, right? So having this integrated safe here, sorry, it's not standing up too well. This here, I don't know, I just don't make use of it. I mean, it's a cool concept for sure. You know, being able to put a pew or whatever you want in there, I like that idea, but I haven't made use of it yet over my 6 months really, and to me it just kind of gets in the way a little bit. This pulls up here thankfully, and you can put more stuff in on that far side. Sorry, I got some paperwork up top, but personally I just would prefer it to be open there. A very small gripe that I have, but worth mentioning if we're being transparent here. And you know, with this particular generation Tundra, it's safe to say that it's not really the best at anything. Perhaps reliability, you can make that argument, I understand, but when it comes to just overall driving performance, you know, the torque, the figures, they're not that amazing face value, right? There's so many better options out there when you look at the performance figures of towing, the horsepower, the torque, even the feel of the suspension, the Fox TRD tuned suspension here. Although I like it a lot, I know there's better out there by a long shot. Having owned a couple Ford F-150 Raptors, I can tell you what, those feel so much better. But it really is just a matter of what you use your truck for too. So that's a big part of the equation. Obviously, if you're going to tow a lot, you're wanting to get a full-size F-250, right? Whereas this is kind of that happy medium for a lot of folks. A ton of body roll when you're driving it down the road. It doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence in having any kind of higher speed through any kind of curves, but still, you don't buy it for that. And you just got to remind yourself of that. This does just feel like a brute of a truck. You're driving a bank vault, similar to the feeling that you have driving a 200 series Land Cruiser, in my opinion. A very big, hefty, very planted vehicle, and I love that about it. One thing that I think is important to add as well is I love how proportionate the front end is. Get kind of that bulldog look, kind of a stubbier front end, similar to what we found with the second generation Toyota Tacoma. I think that just adds to the appeal. And really, when you compare that to the new Tundras, they have a bit of an overbite. The new Tundras have a huge front bumper that extends and hangs down by comparison. So personally, I think this just looks a lot better. You guys tell me what you think. So let's talk about how much money I've lost at this point on the 21 Tundra TRD Pro. So if you guys recall, I bought it back 6 months ago from South Carolina. A gentleman named Eddie sold it to me. Awesome dude who has great taste in vehicles. He also has a Land Cruiser Heritage Edition, a GX 460 at the time. I think he even purchased a couple others since then, and a 4Runner. So definitely great taste. But at the time when I bought it, it did come with an ARE bed topper, paint match one if you recall. That I ended up getting rid of because I didn't like that it took away from the functionality of the bed itself. So we sold that for $2,000. In addition to that, it also had the decked drawer system if you recall. That is with the pull-out trays out back as well as the topper that slid out. So a topper and then the bed or the deck trays down below. Collectively, I sold them each for $900. Bringing a total to $1,800 for the deck drawer system itself, but then allowing this whole entire bed to become functional again, which I really appreciated. You know, being able to put a dirt bike back here, put some sod back here, some soil, whatever it is, I really appreciate having the added space. In addition to that, it did have some Cali raised rock sliders, if you remember. I ended up getting rid of them and going to the trusty Go Rhino RB20 running boards here with the bedliner finish. So I really like this setup here. I always have. Love the simplicity of it. Very easy to install, very lightweight. Love them. And there's a huge foot space here as you get in and out of the vehicle. Protects from door dings extremely well too, for the record. So I swapped those out, but I sold the Cali raised sliders for $800, and I ended up swapping out the tires too. So it did have on it, I think they were Geolander tires. I sold them for $800. So I sold those because they were lightly used, as you'd imagine, with 3,500 miles on it. And even the 3,500 miles that it did have on it weren't entirely on those aftermarket tires that Eddie had put on it. So altogether, we're at $5,400 is what I sold aftermarket components for, between the bed topper, the deck drawer system, Cali raised sliders, and the tires that were on it. Now, let me remind you how much some of these additions cost, and we can kind of do the math here. So when I bought it, it was $58,000 with 3,500 miles on it. The additions I made, you can already tell, we've already talked through the Go Rhino running boards there. Those are about $800 with the bedliner finish anyway. The Nitto Ridge grapplers here, they're $295.70, 18s. These here are about $1,400, a little bit more than $1,400, but unfortunately, when they actually mounted them, they scuffed a couple of the wheels ever so slightly, but they were kind enough to bring it down to $1,000. So $1,000 for the tires there. So $800 for the Go Round, $1,000 for the tires. Then the Retrax Pro tonneau cover here. I really like this, and I actually like it a lot more than I thought I would. I'll give you kind of a better example here. So right here is the pivot point for it. Hit the button and you can begin to slide back, and then at any point you can actually clamp down and hold it in place. So I can put it at the halfway part and clamp it in place. So I've actually really grown to appreciate the functionality of this and just how simplistic this is to use. I guess take a shot for every time I say the word simplistic in this video, I suppose, but I do love how easy it is to use, and it looks pretty sleek. Obviously you have a little bit of a bump up here, but maybe ½ inch or so inch. So not too bad. It doesn't look, I don't know, it doesn't look too bad when you look at it from the side either. And obviously you can always peel off the little real truck badge here. And for whatever it's worth, if anyone is interested, I try not to pimp out the channel too much, and I purposely only become an affiliate for companies that actually truly support, and Real Truck is one of them. So if you are interested in buying this Retrax, it is about $2,200, at least when I bought it. So if you are interested in it, I'll put a link in my video description straight to it on Real Truck. It is my affiliate link, so whenever you use that link, you are for sure going to get the best deals or the best sales at the time on the website. So there's the goodness of it anyway. Same goes for the go around on running boards, you can get those on there, and you can even get tires through Real Truck. So it's a huge website. Feel free to check it out if you're interested. So love this setup here. I think it is perfect for what we would use it for. Let me show you here. Here's the receiving canister. Obviously, you know, having moved into our new house here, we put a lot of stuff back here. The Tundra came in handy as we moved a lot of stuff, and well, we scuffed up the canister a little bit, unfortunately, along the way, but not too bad. So yeah, so those are the primary additions that I made to it. And I'll look at my little cheat sheet here to make sure I didn't miss anything. So yeah, those are it. So altogether, about $4,000. $4,000 invested. So I spent 58 grand on it. I flew out to South Carolina and drove it back. And then I ended up selling about $5,300, $5,400 worth of stuff off of it that was already on it. So bringing it down to just under 53 grand in a sense, right? And then I put about $4,000 worth of stuff into it. So at this point, truly I am about 57 grand into the Tundra TRD Pro here. So currently I'm about $57,000 and some change into my 21 Tundra TRD Pro. Obviously that's not counting tax. That brings it up to over $60,000 where I live anyway. So I would comfortably say that what I paid for it 6 months ago is probably what I could get for it without too much heartache today. 58 grand, I could probably sell for that with 10,000 miles. You know, it really depends. When you look nationwide, you're gonna find a lot of maybe a few outliers asking in the mid 60s for their low mileage TRD Pros, but then you also find some in the high 50s as well. So I think high 50s is a reasonable price for it today. Anyway, again, I don't plan to sell mine here, but I think that's where we're at currently with it. You guys tell me if you disagree. You know, these here, people, they still want them for the reasons we talked about in this video. With that new generation Tundra, they're over complex. You know, they're overcomplicated. There's too much bells, whistles, and frills involved, and especially with that new powertrain, not inspiring a whole lot of confidence with the giant safety recall affecting the main crankshaft bearing. People are not interested in new generation Toyotas. New generation Toyotas are really chasing the green carbon credits right now, and that's abundantly clear. They're deviated too far away from simplicity and reliability. They deviated too far away, and definitely too far away from affordability, right? Wanting 77 grand plus for the new 2024 Tundra TRD Pro. That's a bit insane, especially when you consider it just a few years ago in 2021, 54 grand is what we paid. Kind of wild. And speaking of affiliates, I only have one other company that I work with, and that is ARB 4x4. Feel free to use the discount link in my video description if you're interested in anything ARB 4x4 related. We're talking front, rear bumpers, suspension, any components made by ARB. Feel free to check them out using that link below. It will ensure that you are getting the best discounts being offered at the time. I remember the first time I actually opened the door of a Toyota Tundra of this generation. I remember being so womp-wazzled by just how cheap and flimsy and plasticky this felt. I was blown away. I was like, people like this? People buy this? That's crazy to me. It's like a Tonka truck. Same goes for the inside. Like, what is going on with this big hunk of plastic? So speaking of plastic, there's plenty of that in here, right? You got hard plastics absolutely everywhere, and ooh, how about that stitching? That's the best best design cue that you have on the interior here. So nothing to write home to mom about, right? So I understand why people would get in here and be like, okay, well, this is largely underwhelming. Lots of plastic in here, and really this looks phenomenal right now. You would never guess, because originally they had some fake chrome right here, plastic chrome, some other lighter gray components here stock, whereas we just put some AJT design components to make it blacked out, not making it look all that much better, but definitely a little bit more sleek anyway. So I remember just feeling largely underwhelmed, and it really takes some time to really grow and appreciate this truck for what it is. Just a very raw, visceral feeling utility vehicle at the end of the day. Even tan headliner, a normal standard sunroof. Push to start though, that came in 2020 when they made the small updates and refreshes. They updated the infotainment to have Apple CarPlay, be compatible with that. Just a couple small additions, but just enough to make it perfect in my opinion. I mean, heck, we even have some old school analog gauge displays here. Absolutely love that. And with a high resolution center stack and a plenty good infotainment. So again, nothing more than what you need. So as of right now, guys, like I said, zero desire to swap out my Tundra TRD Pro here. I absolutely love it. I'm very happy with it. And I know that there's not going to be much of an opportunity to get another one of these without spending an arm and a leg for it. I spent quite a bit for this one, 58 grand. 3 years after, well, yeah, about 3 years after it had come out, right? So 3 years old, and I spent over 4 grand more than what its original MSRP was. To be fair, like I said, I had those additional modifications on it that I was able to sell separately, but holistically speaking, that is kind of crazy to say out loud, spending 4 grand more than what it was brand new. But if I could go back, I would absolutely do it again and again, 100 times over. So super happy with it. No desire to swap it out. I love the idea of a Ford Raptor R, maybe at some point, but again, that is so different from the Tundra here. For every reason why I like that new Raptor, the idea of the Raptor R runs contrary to what I find here in my Tundra, and I think I'll always miss the simplicity and really just the overall feeling that this Tundra provides me when I drive it every day. And for many of the reasons why I love my Tundra TRD Pro are the same exact reasons why I love my 5th generation 4Runner TRD Pro here. I think that this is going to age very well, especially as we transition to the new generation, 6th generation 4Runner with the hybridized 4-cylinder. I think people, much like the Tundra here, are going to quickly miss the simplicity and overall reliability of this 5th gen 4Runner. So I'll wrap up the video there, guys. As always, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to watch. If you value this type of content, please let me know. I love engaging with you guys. It's definitely a fun hobby for me to do. If you do enjoy it, please consider liking and subscribing. I definitely appreciate your support. Until next time.